Hello, and welcome to Watershed Moments. I'm Rhonda Pendell Charles, City Councilwoman, City of Annapolis, Maryland. Here with me today is Amanda Gierke.
Hello.
And did I pronounce your name correctly, Amanda?
You did.
Well, good. I got it right the first time. We have Amanda here today, and she's going to be, I know, a fascinating guest. She has a lot to talk about and some things she's done at a very young age. And again, I have a young person today I'm interviewing. Welcome to the show, Amanda. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
We're going to start at the beginning, as we always do with childhood. Tell us a little something about your childhood.
Well, unlike I think most of your guests, I did not grow up in Annapolis. I'm actually only been here for about 9 months. I grew up in a suburb of Chicago, a northwest suburb. Growing up, it was a developing suburb, so it was still kind of a farm town, which was a lot of fun growing up. You had a lot of fields you could kind of run around in, and a lot of kids just running around in my neighborhood. I grew up with the same people from elementary school all the way through high school. We're still a really close-knit group of people, even though we are kind of all over the country, which is a lot of fun.
Well, what are your first memories as a child growing up in a farm town?
I would have to say it would probably be running around with a lot of the neighborhood kids, playing in the dirt, getting into a lot of mischief, driving my mother crazy, trying to run in the house, covered head to toe in dirt.
But you had a good time.
I did. It was a lot of fun, always kind of tinkering, and we had a lot of construction sites going on since it was a developing neighborhood. So I remember playing archaeology as a kid with a lot of the neighborhood friends, digging in the dirt, looking for screws and nails. I'm sure that probably gave my parents a heart attack now thinking about it. I see why they were always upset when I'd come home, but it was a lot of fun. I think that kind of instilled the idea of preservation and history at a young age to me. Never really put that together until I was a little older, but that's probably where that started, at least the roots of it did.
All right, and we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Yes.
Now, did you visit Chicago very often?
Yes, I did. It was about 30 miles away from where I grew up, so it was about an hour train ride. It could be up to a 40-minute drive, too, so it was very close. We would go, my parents would take me to all the museums. They kind of also instilled history at a young age. They thought it was important for me to know the background of not only where I came from, but where our country came from, as well as just our town, how Chicago was formed. So I think that was a lot of fun exploring the city.
Certainly. Now tell us a little bit about Chicago. Some of us have never been there.
It's a really great city. It's a big city compared to Annapolis, that's for sure. Originally was a working city. Now it's known for a lot of its architecture and huge skyscrapers, which if you've ever walked through Chicago, there are some magnificent buildings that makes you feel really small sometimes, especially with all the people and the fast pace of it. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
Oh, no, I think that gives our viewing audience something to go on. Now, you've gone on from elementary with your friends in middle school and then high school. How was high school, and what are some of the things that sparked your interest in high school?
High school is definitely it was a time in my life where I changed a lot. I know in junior high was hard for me. I was not really interested in learning, so it was a struggle for my parents to get me up, go to school, do my homework. But I think in high school I had a lot of really great teachers that saw what I was interested in, specifically art. That's where I really grasped that interest in art as well, and that kind of developed within preservation for me. But that's also the time where I discovered that I really did have this strong interest in history and architecture. Through one photography, I had this great photography teacher growing up, and she really helped me grow and find my interest, which was architecture, surprisingly, as a subject matter. And that was driven through a lot of the family vacations I went on. A lot of my family vacations growing up were road trips all across the East Coast, going to historic sites. And I think that's why I started taking pictures of architecture. That teacher is the same person who actually introduced me to Savannah College of Art and Design, which is the college I went to. She told me about the school and really sold it to me in a lot of ways before I even went there. And as soon as I walked into the city, I fell in love with
With Savannah?
Yes, with
Oh,
Savannah.
wow. So that teacher made a really big impact on you and
Yes, she
what you
did.
decided to go forward with. Now, of course, we've interviewed Lisa Craig, and that's the same college she attended as well.
Yes, it is.
Yes, well, that's good to know. Anyway, so you took a lot of road trips as a child. Tell us some of the places that you went.
Oh, wow. So many. It was all up and down the East Coast, specifically New England. My father had always been very interested in the Civil War and Revolutionary War, were his kind of driving passions in history. And that's more of a hobby for him. He doesn't work within history, but he, like I said, he always thought it was important that I was raised understanding where we came from as a society and civilization as well. So we stopped at a lot of battlefields. I've been to almost all of the founding fathers' homes. So Pennsylvania, a lot of cities in Pennsylvania, I think really stuck close to me as well as in Virginia.
And oftentimes, as a young person, as a child, a teenager, those kinds of visits aren't very interesting. But for you,
Yeah.
obviously, that was very different.
Yes and no, actually. When it started, there were a lot of those trips where I was definitely probably an annoying little kid sitting in those museums and house museums on tours, very frustrated, kind of pouting. Why are we going to another museum? Why do I have to sit here and be quiet and not touch anything? Can't we go to a beach or somewhere where I can run around and play? And as I got older, it became more, can't we go into the stores? Can I go shopping? But I think it was in Virginia, actually, at Montpelier. That was where it hit home.
That was your watershed moment.
That was my watershed moment for preservation. They were in the middle of a big restoration project, and I was witnessing it firsthand, and I thought that was amazing. I had been there a few years earlier, and it was in a completely different state it was in a completely different state. It was perfect, pristine. It was all set up just the way you would expect a house museum to be. Period furniture. And at this point, I'd come back, and it was a construction site. And they were giving tours and explaining why it looked the way it did and what their long-term projects were. And I thought that was fascinating, that something that was so old and we thought was so set in stone, and this is the way it's supposed to be, and this is the story that's been told for 50 years or even longer, could change. And by just one simple discovery, you can completely just reinvent a story, and it's something completely new. And that in itself was exciting to me, how history is kind of a mystery every single time. You can always uncover and rediscover things.
Right. So from there, you did what? I mean, that was your watershed moment, and how did you use that watershed moment?
Well, I didn't actually know what preservation was still. I kind of had this idea. I heard the word being thrown around, so it was one of those, what is this? What is preservation? What do I have to do to become this person that is a preservationist? What do I have to, or what does that entitle, and what other projects and jobs do they do? So it was kind of diving into that. I went to, in my high school, we had a career center, which I was very thankful for, very helpful, where we could go as students and they would help you write college admission essays, figure out what colleges you wanted to apply to, what you needed to do in your next steps, as well as if that's not the path that's right for you, well, let's see what we can do to make you a successful adult without going to college, because that's not for everybody, and everyone understands that everyone takes their own paths. So my career center advisor, she kind of helped me dig through different websites and books. And she said, well, dig, yes. That is true. It was a lot of digging, a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But I'm glad I went through it to actually figure out what preservation was. And ultimately, we started looking at what schools offered this program. And that's how I kind of found out about Savannah College of Art and Design. And then I also brought it to my photography teacher and talked to her about the school. And she is, again, kind of going full circle here, was the one who told me all about it, and ultimately drove me to go check out the school and experience.
And at that point, you were mature enough to listen to what your career coach had to say, as well as your photography teacher. And oftentimes, as young people, and even as older folk, we don't listen to what others who might even know better than we do.
Yeah.
So at least you were much smarter than some to listen.
I think I was lucky too.
Well, that helps.
Pick and choose. I think even at that age, it's still a little bit of selective listening, but I was lucky enough that that's something that I did follow through with and realize it's important. I think that was a turning point that also did kind of help me decide this is an important thing, to listen to other people and take everyone's advice. Whether I follow it or not, you need to kind of look at every side of a story sometimes.
Right, exactly. Now tell us a little bit about your experiences at the Savannah College of Art.
Oh, that was a very big adventure for me. Being an only child, I was very close with my parents as well as my immediate family, grandparents, aunts, and uncles.
And I'm an only child, so I understand exactly where you're coming from.
And moving from Chicago all the way to Savannah was over 1,000 miles away. At first, I was excited. I can do this. I was a person who just thought I can conquer anything and I will get through this, and I did. As soon as they left, though, I do remember my parents leaving, and I was nervous. That was that moment where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm all alone. This is a first. I'm responsible for myself, which was a shocking moment in my life, but also really exciting. You know, I had the whole world to myself, and I was my own responsibility. Feeling pretty great, but Savannah was a great school because it helped me, really, it gave me the discipline to follow through with projects. As I'd mentioned before, junior high was a challenge because I was not interested in school or education in a lot of ways. And thankful enough that in high school I started to kind of change.
You found something that you were passionate and
Yes,
interested in.
Exactly.
That always helps.
It does, and I'm thankful that at a young age I was able to discover that, because I know it's difficult to find what you really want to do, and I'm thankful that I did. But with Savannah College of Art and Design, it was a very different experience because everybody there was so creative and had something amazing that they were talented and gifted with. And it was a very intimidating level to start out at. Everybody there is an amazing painter, and I was no artist in that sense. Every time I try to paint something or draw, I'm, even to this day, still a little disappointed in how it turns out. I look at somebody else who's been drawing for years and has an amazing talent and skill level, and I look at my work and I'm like, well, I tried.
But you have your own talent.
I do.
That's right.
And I accepted that. I think at Savannah it did help me realize that everybody has something they're good at, and you're not going to be good at everything. You need to just own what you are great at and what you love to do, and be happy with what you can do. And
Absolutely.
And ultimately, by doing so, you're going to be happier in life, I think.
Certainly. Now, let's go from the Savannah
Yes.
to what you are doing now and how you got to where you are now.
Well, I have to thank Lisa Craig a lot for for where I am now. And also a woman by the name of Carol Kelly. She is a wonderful woman. She is the manager at the Chase Lloyd home, whereas another place that I work. I was introduced to Annapolis actually about 3 years ago now. I came for a summer internship to work at the Chase Lloyd home, doing restoration work on their windows, which was a really exciting project to start and dive into. It's still an ongoing project, as most preservation is. It takes time.
So you have to have a lot of patience.
You do. But through that, I came back again, and I started working with the Chase Lloyd home, doing measured drawings, and helping really just create some preservation principles that they have and kind of add on to them, which is important being an old building, that you need to be able to keep it alive, especially a building as unique as the Chase Lloyd home. I'm not sure how familiar we are with it, but it's also a retirement home and has been run as a retirement home since 1889.
Wow.
So,
and tell us where it's located in.
it is located on Maryland Avenue.
All right.
Yes, right, 22 Maryland Avenue.
Okay, so our viewing audience can look at some more information about that as well.
Yeah.
Now, you went to the Chase Lloyd house and you did some preservation with the windows.
Yes.
And after that?
After that, actually, through that, I was introduced to Lisa Craig,
Okay.
who I had met during my internship, went back to school to complete my degree, and after I had graduated, we got in contact again, and I started working with her in the Historic Preservation Commission.
For the city of Annapolis.
Yes, for the city of Annapolis, working on their hazard mitigation plan, ultimately, is what I started working on there, which is a very exciting project and a lot of challenges, which was a new, unique twist on preservation that I never would have expected, but always exciting, and that's what's great about that field. But through that, I started working on that, as well as the Parole Maryland scavenger hunt, which has been an exciting project as well to work on. Very unique history that I didn't know actually existed out there. I was very surprised.
And we're happy to have you have worked on that. And we are so grateful for the things you've done. And tell us a little bit about what you have done as far as the scavenger hunt, the walk parole scavenger hunt.
Well, I helped really get the ball rolling with the history. I compiled a lot of the information on different sites that we were going to talk about and really kind of create a nice little timeline of different sites and significant key time periods within those sites. Some of the churches in the area that have a really great sense of community that I didn't realize was there, especially being so new to the area. I moved here about 9 months ago, so still getting acquainted with everything, starting to, dive into different areas of town. When I first moved here, I thought of it as Target and realized there's so much more there that I just completely overlooked, and it's an amazing area.
Yes, it is. Tell us a little bit about what you found probably to be one of the most fascinating or interesting or surprising things that you found out about parole.
Well, being interested in the Civil War because of my father, I had no idea it was a parole camp, actually, at first. There's just that history goes so much further back, even from there, I think is amazing. That there was farmsteads there before there was a parole camp, and it kind of evolved into a community through time after that. I think is amazing that it just kind of snowballed so quickly into something that's just such a great sense of community today, with even through all the churches, reading a lot of the history. You could really see that sense of community, and everybody there takes pride in everything.
Yes, and it's good to hear that from someone who has not lived here, and to see what their perspectives have been when they researched it and looked at it. So we're grateful for you to give us something fresh that we haven't thought of, or that we take for granted, that we often do when we live right here. So we're grateful for that as well. We're going to have that walk on March the 19th and the 20th, and our viewing audience can take a look at our city's website for more information about that, and to take a look at the good work that you, as well as Amania Price, have done with that. And you all have worked as a great tag team.
Yes,
and we're so grateful for your work. Tell us a little bit more about the hazard mitigation aspect of what you've been working on with Lisa.
That was an interesting project from the beginning, because I didn't really know anything about hazard mitigation. I mean, it deals a lot with the rising sea levels and nuisance flooding that happens a lot around the historic district, and I'm sure most people who've ever been down in the historic district have probably experienced it at some point to some level. We are dealing with really trying to figure out how can we save these buildings that are so old and so important to the history of Annapolis. How can we help prevent further damages to these buildings from this rising sea level, as well as the nuisance flooding that is occurring fairly regularly now and is only going to increase as time goes on, just with the way our weather has progressed and changed. And it is definitely a challenge working within a historic district, because we have different guidelines. You can't just put every building on stilts. You can't pick every building up and move it somewhere different. That changes a lot of the context of the building, as well as the area that it's in, which has a very important history there that would be lost if those buildings didn't exist where they do, or it might be harder to find or really visualize anyways.
Well, give us a good definition for our viewing audience. What is a preservationist?
Well,
I know it means a lot.
It does mean a lot of different things. To me, preservationist, I obviously focus on the architecture a lot within my field, or within my career path. Although to me, preservation is a lot more about preserving the history and encapsulating history and culture of a town. And in doing so, you have to preserve the buildings that are there and maintain them and keep them in a appropriate condition to help maintain and show that history and what the community means to the people who live there. And that's what I think is exciting as a tourist going to any new town. You can really see not only how the people live today, what's important to them today by how they handle restoring a building or maintaining a building, even modernizing a building, because even all through Annapolis we're using buildings that are hundreds of years old or over 100 years old. And to me, it's about finding that balance of letting a city progress and really embracing where it came from as well as where it needs to go, as well as showing people what is important to them and maintaining that unique culture and the character of a building and the history that's there.
Now, you mentioned as a child you did some traveling. Are you still traveling?
Yes.
Tell us some about your travels.
Well, I'm always trying to find somewhere new and interesting to explore, and especially if I can get my hands a little dirty within preservation.
Oh, back in the dirt again.
Yes, always back in the dirt. As long as I can get my hands dirty within a preservation project, that's even more exciting to me, to be able to work and experience a city at the same time. Lately I've been traveling actually a lot more to Chicago. I've had a few projects here and there. A few of my friends have actually just bought new homes that are new to them, old to everybody else. A few of them are within the early 1900s, which is really exciting for me, but they're young professionals, still kind of getting on their feet, not realizing how much buying a home and taking care of it can really takes a toll on your pocket. So I've been helping them out here and there with a lot of things, giving myself some resume builders with some hands-on projects, which is, I'm thankful for them.
Wonderful.
Even though it's not as well-paying as I'd hope it would be, working for them, it's always great to help out a friend.
Certainly. And it's building your skill set and you're learning new things.
Always.
Now, you indicated also that, as with most young people early on, middle school, you couldn't quite find your way. What can you tell us today, to our youth today? Give them some advice.
I think for me, what was a challenge, especially in my early childhood, was I had a lot of trouble wanting to fit in, wanting to be something I wasn't because I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be cool. I wanted everyone to look at me and think I was this amazing person. And by doing that, I had a lot of awkward times because I was trying to be something I wasn't. And I think what's important is everybody's kind of a jigsaw puzzle. We all fit together to help create a big picture and make something amazing and beautiful, but we're all different, just like a jigsaw puzzle. Every piece is different. And I think you have to embrace that. You have to embrace the person you are and do what makes you happy. Really find your passion and go for it. Go follow your heart, because when I started to do that and really not care what people thought of me in that sense and do what I thought was what made me happy, I ultimately gained more success in myself, more confidence within myself, once I realized that I was moving forward and progressing into places I never thought I would be at such a young age. Even in high school, to me, graduating high school, I was amazed at the grades I got. I would have never had or even imagined getting those grades in junior high, because I thought it was too cool to not. I thought it was cooler not to care, and that's not the case. You're not going to get very far in life if you don't care about something. You need to find something you care about and run with it.
Yes, and your career coach, obviously, and your photographer teacher were instrumental in you finding your way. And oftentimes, they find you. Sometimes you find them. But it worked out for you, and we're just so grateful for your help in the city of Annapolis, especially with Walk Parole, a scavenger hunt for history. We had the Rosenwald lecture. And that went very well, and we're still talking about Mr. Julius Rosenwald, and well, we're on the scavenger hunt, which will be Saturday and Sunday, March 19th and 20th. And we look forward to everyone in our community coming out, but also thinking about the hard work that went into creating what we will be creating on that day. There'll be signs in yards. We have a wonderful, sleek brochure and some great photography that we can be thankful for, and all the hard work and passion, which was obvious to me, that you all put into this project. And it's something to be very, very proud of. Do you have any contacts with any of your former teachers or classmates, and catch up on what you all are doing?
Yes, actually, what's great about Savannah College of Art and Design is and within preservation, because we're kind of a smaller school. We were a big school for an art school, but we were a small school enough that we're still kind of close-knit, very tight-knit group of people. We actually are planning a trip near the beginning of April to all meet in Chicago. To kind of have a reunion, which will be fun. We're planning some activities that are going on in the area, different tours to take, really to kind of get back together again and just say hello, see what everyone's been up to, and catch up with everybody. Also, within preservation, it's a lot about who you know. Everybody helps each other out. We all are fighting for the same thing. We all want to save cities. We all want to make as many communities as we can beautiful and embrace what they truly want to be. So in doing so, we have to work as a team and help each other out and kind of, one, give each other advice, but also tag team a little bit and figure out what projects we can work together and collaborate on.
It's all about relationships and sustaining those relationships with the people who have common interests, and sometimes not even common interests, but just being, having a lot of fun around. But we thank you so much, Amanda, for being here today and giving us another glimpse of Annapolis and another glimpse of what goes on here that we may not have known about. But it takes sometimes someone from somewhere else to make us appreciate what we really do have here. And we thank you so very much for all of your hard work. Thank you so much, and we appreciate everyone watching Watershed Moments today. Thank you so much.